Oh, hi, ChrissieCasters. It's me. I'm calling. Hi, ChrissieCasters. It's me, Chrissie Swan. Welcome to this podcast and thank you for listening to it. I'm having a coffee and probably reading a book. I mean, look. Holidays for me, unless I physically remove myself from the perimeter of the compound, they usually involve sorting buckets, and that is probably what I'm doing. But while I'm busy with that, why don't you enjoy a little selection of my favourite bits and bobs and conversations that have happened since I started the ChrissieCast about a year ago. Welcome to the ChrissieCast, the great Tim Rosso-Ross.
Thank you very much. So good to see you. Looking fabulous.
Am I?
Yeah.
I've had a year, Rosso.
Do you want to talk about that now?
No. We'll talk about that
Okay.
over a coffee.
Okay. I'm sure everyone would rather hear about your year than what I've got to talk about.
I'm going to spin the wheel again,
Yeah.
Rosso.
Okay. Good. I love a wheel.
And, well, look at that. My best year has come up. I can't wait. I was hoping it would come up for you. What, Tim Rosso-Ross, is your best year yet?
Oh, I've had a few. It's hard to decide. Can I do two?
Yes.
It's such a curious thing, isn't it, to think about whole years and how they affect you and what happened, but also without sounding like a wanker.
Yeah.
So without going, well, that was the year that I did this, or the years that you have children's really important, but that goes without saying.
Yeah, they don't count.
No, there was a woman, I can't remember her name. She was on one of those shows that were big, Wisteria Lane.
Oh, oh God, I can see them all.
And she had blonde hair and she's married to William H. Macy. Everyone's mad.
Oh God, what's her name?
Anyway, I saw her
and she got embroiled.
Yeah, she's in jail.
In that, yeah.
She's in jail
because she was paying people off to get her kids into
university.
Yeah. Oh, what's her name? Felicity Huffman.
Huffman, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Felicity, who was in Desperate Housewives.
Yes, Desperate Housewives.
Hands on the butter.
Yeah.
But I saw this interview with her.
Do you want to pick a famous face?
I loved the famous faces.
So did I. I lived for that round on Sale of the Century.
I'll take the home viewer, please.
I would never have taken the home viewer.
Why would you?
Why?
You know, there's someone from Charlie's Angels or Brett from Craigieburn.
Exactly.
Take Farrah Fawcett Majors every time.
Cheryl Ladd for the win.
She was on there a bit.
She was.
God, it's just all coming back. I love a pick of the board. She once said, not Cheryl Ladd, Felicity Huffman, that she felt like that everyone should, when you talk about your greatest achievements, you should talk about your children. Huh? And she said, well, not for me. It's my career. Which I thought was pretty brave.
I do too. And I actually... And I agree with it. I agree with it.
I think when she said it, right, which was maybe 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I think it was controversial. I think today everyone would go, yeah, it makes sense.
I got in trouble for saying...
For not loving your children enough.
Well, this is the thing. I love them so much.
But it goes without saying, doesn't it?
But yes, but I also feel like I love them in a way that no one else loves their children. But I know that everybody feels that way.
But that's the secret sauce.
And I don't talk about them much because every day millions of women give birth to a baby. It's like the most common thing that happens. So I don't think I can add anything to that.
Yeah.
And I was I don't like doing, I don't even know what you call them, but there's people with
Seance.
Yeah, group massacre.
Yeah.
No, you sit in front of a group of
market research,
other women,
barbecue,
and you talk with a microphone. What is that called? Like a Q&A or something.
Yeah,
keynote speaking.
Yeah,
I don't do it, but I was forced to anyway. I was answering a question about that vibe, and Ita Buttrose was on there, and she waited until I finished, and then in front of everybody, she said, "Well, can I just disagree with you?" And children are. I don't know. She made me sound like a witch. You know, she made me sound awful.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Like I was keeping them in a cage and putting a bone in there. You know what I mean? Yuck.
Well,
That's not what I meant.
I don't want to say anything about Ida, but everyone has their own journey with, and she was probably not around for her kids as much as she would have liked to in a time that didn't understand that.
Exactly.
My mother was very fond of Ida. She subscribed to her Ida magazine.
Yes.
And I was at an event once, right, and we went out. Can I tell you this story?
Yes.
Yeah. So, used to do
I love it when you talk about your mum.
She
was awesome.
I'm taking mum out of the situation for 2 seconds.
Okay.
So, we go to one of these lunches we used to have back in the day, a whole bunch of Sydney radio people and you know, red meat, man lunch, we used to call them.
Yeah, sure.
And so Ben Fordham's there. And we've had a lot to drink. And Ben,
were you in radio when it was like that?
it was not as good as when it was like that.
Okay.
We came just after. It was good, but it wasn't.
It was good, but it wasn't Doug Mulray level.
No, it wasn't Ferrari level. And so Ben Fordham's sister's an artist. And there's an exhibition going on, and it opens at 5:00 on a Friday afternoon, and we all turn up like it's like a hurricane of drunk people.
Yeah.
You know, classic mid-2000s. I'm wearing thongs, some flared jeans. Like beard, looking like Bill Oddie from the Goodies. And somewhere along the line, we pick up our mate Bulldog, who's not in the show business at all. He comes along.
What a great nickname.
And so we're like, Joey Johns, the famous rugby league player, well known for liking everything. Even he looked at us and went, "Oh, you guys are a bit over the, you know."
And you were at a gallery opening.
It was a gallery opening. And just... And so Ida's there. I'm having a chat.
This sounds like a fever dream.
I'm having a chat to Ida, and I introduced Ida to Bulldog. I sort of know Ida because I was at a Foxtel event once and told her that my mum really liked her, and she said to me, will you tell your mum that I said hello? Which is like the most beautiful thing you could say.
Yeah.
And so,
I love Ida.
So I'm introducing Ida to Bulldog. They're chatting up a storm.
No.
Everything gets a little bit hazy there. You know, you meet a whole bunch of people in subsequent years going, I met you at that gallery with Thingo Fordham.
Okay.
Fast forward to 2 days later, Merrick and I ended up sending flowers to Ben's sister to apologise for being so drunk at her opening. But the one thing that I do remember was Michael Bulldog being out the front, Ita leaving, getting into a limousine, and her winding down the window and waving out, "See you later, Bulldog." Anyway, what were we talking about?
She is a cracker.
Oh, amazing. Amazing woman.
Amazing. The luminous Clare Bowditch is an award-winning musician, author and actress. But I like to refer to her as a gold standard soother, listener, encourager and cupboard wiper. I'm just so thrilled that she is here because I love her. Welcome to the ChrissieCast, Clare Bowditch.
Well, gosh, it's a thrill to be here.
Finally.
What do you mean, cupboard wiper? Is that just a way of describing that I love you?
Yes. You came over to my house recently because I had made, like for the express reason, and it was clear, I'd made it very clear why you were coming over, apart from that I needed to see you. I'd made pumpkin scones from my grandmother's recipe, and there was one person that popped into my head that would enjoy them with me, and it was you. And you came over and we ate the pumpkin scones eventually. And then we talked and talked and talked, and the whole time you were washing down the front of my cupboards.
It actually sounds quite rude when you say that, but as a Dutch woman, this is just so normal to me. My mother and I, we always stood and talked, and we did little bits and pieces, and, it was my fault there was pumpkin scone on the front of the cupboard because you showed me an incredible recipe. I never really considered.
No. It's a
scone.
Queensland thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I loved watching you clean my cupboards, and I thought, that's another reason I think that we love each other is you might be like me in that you can't think unless you're doing something. So I have learnt that about myself, that I can't like come up with anything unless I'm doing something else.
Yeah, I do really like to be a sort of, I find my body likes to move and do, but this could also just be the fact that I am a mum of 3 and we run a small business and there's always been a lot to do. But if I really reflect back on childhood, I was always a bit of a busy person. I thought, what a wonderful world. Let's get into it. There was always something to do.
Yes. What sort of child were you?
I was brought up the youngest of 5. Oh, gosh, I get emotional thinking about it now. I've actually got a croak in my throat. No, I was the youngest of 5. We were all born 18 months apart. And I was really lucky. I'm often asked, did you come from a creative family? And on a traditional, judgment, perhaps no. My mum was a nurse, my dad worked in the law, but my parents were deeply loving and very creative people. And so I remember my childhood as actually a place of great fun. Mum was the kind of woman who should give you a can of paint and say, go on, off you go, paint the wall. Or we had lots of Brussels sprout fights or, and so on. But it was also really difficult.
Why was it difficult?
Because my sister died. Rowie, yeah. So she was 2 years older than me when she died, when I thought we'd just get into it. When she, I was 5 and she was 7. And my parents, very fortunately, had very strong faith. So they stayed together, held the family together. But Rowie had been sick for a long time and we really missed her. And I think that made me and my siblings really close. But that's the truth of it. That was part of the waters that we grew up in.
When something catastrophic like that happens to a small child, how important is talking about it?
I don't know as a child that it was terrifically important to talk about it, but as an adult and someone who then became a parent myself, it's been really important because she's in the room with me and with us always. So to not talk about her, in beloved company, or to pretend that she wasn't there is just not possible for me. Her photos were always all over the house. We always spoke of her, and we still do. She was absolutely glorious. And
who did she look like?
Funny,
because I've seen your siblings, and I've seen your parents, and I'm obsessed with genetics.
Yeah, when you're a kid and you have like Holly Hobby pillowcases or so on, right?
Yeah.
So in my childhood mind, she always looked like Holly Hobby. It's so funny. So she sort of, if I look back at the photos now, I see my mum, I see my dad, I see my brother, I see my sisters. But she really was her own unit, and she was kind of born that way. She was super bright, super husky, super bossy, and super kind. Yeah, but a really smart kid. And, I think a lot of who we are as a child remains who we are as adults. I find that more and more as I sort of head into this. I'm almost 50 now, Swanee.
Are you going to have a 50th?
If you'll come, I will. But I've heard...
Come, I'll organise it for you.
Okay, done.
I'm good at that.
Should we go back to Europe like you did last time?
Oh, my God.
I'll tell you what, though, I've heard you say this, that we, at every decade we feel like we're done. So at 30 we might feel like we're done. At 40 we might feel like we're done and over. At 50 we feel like we're done. And that the friendship that we have always reminds me to not fall to that story. Like, who is it who... You said yes to Big Brother 21 years ago.
I know.
On a crazy whim.
A crazy whim. And it changed my life.
Everything.
Yeah. Are you writing another book?
Yeah, and I've this sometimes happens. I'm a little like you. I'm a little lush in some ways too. When I hit on like find your creative courage, transform your life using everyday creativity. It was just this sort of funny little title, sweet little title. I'll do something useful. It was 3 years ago that I pitched it to Audible off the back of doing an audiobook with them. Audiobook of that book that we mentioned. And my mum is one of the characters in the audiobook, meaning she does the swear warning, and she shares her apple tart recipe. But I thought it would be a small project that I know the content so well. I have this conversation with so many people about, hey, have you considered maybe you are creative? Why don't you try this? How's this for a random creative adventure? Or just, It took me down the most interesting and profoundly fascinating rabbit hole and connection with strangers and conversations and delight, and really trying to find a good argument for what I believe is the most sustainable, renewable, underrated, squandered ever available, affordable power that each of us have within us, which is this power of a new thought, of creativity, that it overwhelmed the book that I was going to write. I overwrote. And I tell you where, so you asked, am I writing another book? Yeah, I've written a number of books since 2019's release. I am a little overwhelmed by which story to tell next, which is the most useful, which is the most present. And this is a really classic conundrum. And I think the trick is to just get it out there. Whatever it is. But
what are the stories that we are going to get from Clare?
The books that I wrote during this time, and it was really, again, just out of 2020, was about small acts of pleasure for all kinds of weather. And this was, in a way, a kind of make and do book that told stories. And it was about how we can survive difficult things sometimes by bringing in a sense of play. So it was in line with the work that I'm doing now with Audible. But a part of me then had to grieve my mother and grieve changes in life, and grieve. Look, just learn to
get
live.
used to it.
Yeah,
it's new.
So ways to live well without, these things that were so familiar in our lives, and with change. So that became then a really big story too. This story of how do we live well, and for me that was around. Many things, but there's another part that people just want me to tell the next part of the memoir. I only really wrote the first memoir up until the point of having my first daughter, Asher, and that's something I wanted to write too. So I think maybe we need to just put it, like I know we all have our own sort of, tripwires or rabbit holes that we fall down, and I've fallen down one, and I actually need a bloody good talking to, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And I think if I were going to draw me in a champion, think of yourself, think of our mates, maybe Catherine Devaney, who's a wonderful encourager of writers. She has workshops called Gunners, I'm going to write and so on. But she
I
would
just
say,
ordered the
cards. I've got my
cards.
She's made these beautiful, prompt cards. So my problem is I've written far, far, far too much, and I need someone. Well, I need to tell myself to just put something out there.
So I can see a
Get on with
funnel.
it.
I can see a funnel, and there's all these ideas, and it's blocked. The ideas are there.
What do you want to
Which
hear,
is coming
Swanee?
through?
Oh, I put her on the spot.
I want to hear all of it.
Yeah. So it's really frustrating when the very thing we know we should do, and I would advise another mate to do, which is just start with one.
Yes.
And there. I've got to this sort of crossroads with myself over it. But really, I think I wanted to end 2025 back out in the world. I've had a good sabbatical with making...
that's a year down the track.
Yeah,
the end of 2025. No, that's good. I was just checking. Checking.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant 2024.
Oh, yeah.
Look, here's the truth. All my excuses are probably gone now. So, last 10 years, I've been raising guinea pigs and children and doing other projects. And my boys are 6'7", and they've just finished year 12. My daughter's 21. I think you'll hear more from me next year, is what I'm saying.
I think I will. And you've got to meet yourself where you are every single day, and you've got to accept that you don't know what that's going to be today. So you've got to be flexible.
Are you giving me advice now? Because I'm listening, because I was still worrying my mind. You got my full attention. Let's talk about this theoretically. So I'm someone who has lots of ideas, but am I not showing enough creative courage myself with these ideas? Like, what would you advise?
No, you've got too many.
I'm just overwhelmed.
Yeah, there's a traffic jam. A few years ago, I can't remember how long ago, but it was during lockdown, I made a friend, Josh Reid Jones. In that weird way that happened in lockdown, you sort of fast-tracked your connection. We became really, really close. But last year, in 2024, I was deep in the thick of it, sorting out my life, my work, my family, my finances. All of this was new to me. And in order to do so, I withdrew from everyone
for over a year. I thought it was going to be a couple of months, and it turned out to be closer to 18. I just disappeared. Now, most people, understandably, would have taken that as a sign, would have judged me for it. They may have moved on. They would have definitely taken it personally. But Josh didn't. Throughout that entire time, he kept checking in. No pressure, no expectations, just kindness. Just a quiet, constant, active kindness. And I wondered then, why did he never assume the worst? Why did he never feel slighted? Why did he never stop reaching out? Did he ever think, maybe I should just give up on this? And if he did think that, then why didn't he follow through? We haven't spoken about any of this yet. We still haven't really seen each other. I've saved it for today because I've got so many questions. Welcome to the ChrissieCast, Josh Reid Jones.
Hello, my love.
Now, what did you think was going on with me?
It doesn't take a genius. I obviously knew what was happening all the way up to the lead into everything, you know, and it's all the big stuff. It's like really big, heavy things for a big-hearted person who's got lots of people relying on them. You know, heavy is the crown, or heavy is the head that wears the crown. And you've got a lot of, when you've got a lot on, sometimes people, just more people, there's just more to deal with, you know? So...
Mo people, mo problems.
Mo people, mo problems, yeah. If you feel like you have to do things, it can be like that. And...
it was just the weight of the responsibility.
Yeah.
And it was all new. And I feel like my life... I'm the sort of person... Do you turn down the radio when you're reversing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Because I have to shut out the noise or I can't concentrate. And that's sort of what I had to do. I was so full of, like... I just didn't know what to do when you would contact me because I was like, I'm not the same person I was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know, if I do catch up with him, it's going to be such a downer and I don't even know where to start. I'm so overwhelmed. And so I did that awful thing that I never do, where I just never responded. Did you think that I had ghosted you at any point?
No, I didn't think ghosting. I just thought, you know, you're in it. And probably, if anything, that just means, you know, that it's more important to just... you know, here if you need it and just do that with no expectation. Because, like, that's obviously what's happening. You, the first couple of times, it's like, oh, you're just busy. We're both a bit shit sometimes on messaging anyway because we run around, you look, we have everyone, you know, we do that thing that most people do where you go, I'll get back to that, and you go, fuck, it's been 3 days. I'll get back, you know, now I'll do it. But then after a couple, I was like, okay, you know, you're in the middle of it, and then you probably... Once a few big things happen, it's difficult to have to reiterate those things to more people all the time. And you've got professionals and stuff you've got to deal with. If you know, finance, you've got to go sit with the accountant. It's not always... then you've got to deal with someone else and you've got to do another thing. You don't always want to sit down and go through it all again with someone else, you know. And then after a few of those things happen, you're like, I've got 7 big things I've got to talk about and I cannot be asked. And now... I've got 10 big things and now it's too much and now I can't catch you up because it's too much to do in one go and I'm knackered.
In hindsight, if I could have my time again, I wouldn't, by the way. Annus horribilis. Annus and a half horribilis. But I think if I had my time again, I would have spoken to you because I didn't speak to anybody. So when I know what you mean, you don't want to say the same thing over and over. That's annoying, but I wasn't saying it to anybody. And I think that, in hindsight, made it harder. But I felt like I couldn't even articulate how much I was having to learn. I couldn't even do it. And I think I said that to you on a few occasions. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So what do you think, because I do hear nobody ever, you know, got mad at me for which I'm really grateful for because I don't like it when people get mad at me, particularly when I'm sad.
Yep.
But people do. A lot of people do. And, you know, there's whole Reddit threads on how long is acceptable to not respond to a text message. I just don't think you're wired that way.
Yeah. I mean, you get frustrated. Everyone can get frustrated and everyone can feel sad about stuff. And, you know, I missed you. You know,
Yeah.
like I miss you because I miss you. But
I also didn't want you to know as well because wasn't that it was embarrassing. It was just such a mess. And I don't know, you and your eyes looking at me, I just couldn't stand it.
it's hard to think when you've developed so much competence to then find yourself swimming in all this like lack of competence and just be like, I don't want to be perceived as this person. And I work so hard to be past step one that now that I'm back at it, this isn't something that I want someone to be that's known me from step 30 to know me at step one. But, you know, I think good friends are here for all of it, the ups and the downs, the starts and the finishes and all the things in between. But I also understand that how vulnerable it feels if someone's with you in those moments and you're not 100% sure what's going to happen because it's been ages since anyone's been there and, you know, in that circumstance for you, you know, so I get it.
I've really missed you. And also I just really want to thank you for that because it was a fairly lonely time by my own doing because I had these huge areas of my life that had changed fundamentally and I'm so like I take it so seriously making sure that everyone's okay and doesn't feel in the dark or I don't know. I just didn't know what I was doing. I had so much to learn in all the big areas. And I just always knew that it was like I was on stage and everything was crazy. And then you were just off in the, you know, side of stage, just, you know, no comments, just watching. And that felt very nice because, and also your timing was extraordinary because a curveball would be thrown at me or something wouldn't work out or I hadn't quite made the right decision and then you would pop up in my phone and I didn't, you know, the protocol is when somebody messages you, you message them back. You know, I know that, of course. But it was different with you. It was like you didn't expect it and you were just there going, remember who you are, you know. You're still that person even though everything, you know, is crazy. I mean, everything's great now. But my God, Josh.
Yeah.
Far out.
I think everyone's had those moments where like things are going so nuts. They're like, if I lose grip on this, I won't grip it again. And so I've just got to keep my head down and away from anything that might even put the tiniest crack in it.
It's like, you know, you got greasy hands at the show and your helium balloon. It's gone. You just watch it. Can't ever get that back.
No, and look, everyone who loves you is glad to see you come out the other side, you know, but things will happen again. They'll happen, and we'll be here again. And
I won't. I'm not going to isolate next time.
Yeah,
I'm getting better at that now. Even
try it out, see what happens. A/B test. Next crisis, come back and go, you know what? Actually, I am going on my own again. The third time I'm back on my own. This is the second time was rubbish. I'm out.
Gosh, haven't we had a lovely time? I'll see you back here next week for a few more highlights that you might not have heard.